All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself. My name is Sam Baddoo, CEO and founder at Fleri. Fleri is a cross-border health marketplace that helps immigrants living in the diaspora to be able to find, understand, and pay for healthcare for their families back home. We're currently available for immigrants with family members in Ghana, Nigeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Cameroon, and Gambia. Today, I have the utmost pleasure of welcoming Mercy Chola from One Life Assurance in Zambia, all the way from Lusaka, joining us. We're going to be speaking about the state of health insurance, the state of healthcare access in Zambia. This is especially mindful as we think about the current debt refinancing and negotiation that's going on in Zambia, the number of people who need access to healthcare, what the financial and economic situation looks like, and for families living abroad who have relatives back home, how do you actually go on to provide them with the care that they need? Mercy, welcome. Thank you very much for honoring us with your presence.
Thank you so much, Sam.
All right, great. So digging right in, as I introduce Fleri and what we do, one of the pleasures that we've had is to be able to work with organizations that are reputable, organizations that have had a credible presence in the countries that we operate in. For your organization in One Life, you are currently the Chief Commercial Officer. I would love for you to introduce yourself, how you got to be at One Life, and what your role is responsible for there.
Okay, thank you so much for that question, Sam. As you've rightly heard, my name is Mercy Chola. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at One Life. Before I speak about myself, let me speak about who One Life is. One Life is a licensed institution regulated by the Pensions and Insurance Authority, PIA, in Zambia. And we have over 15 years of experience in the Zambian market, offering homegrown solutions to our clients. When we started operations initially, we were providing only corporate solutions, but we quickly realized that families were being left out, and we were pioneers not only of the corporate medical insurance, but also for the individual health insurance. And currently, in the Zambian market, you'll be happy to note that we are one of the two insurance companies offering individual and family solutions in the Zambian market. Coming to me, I joined One Life, I think, almost 3 years ago. And my role basically involves business acquisition, taking care of clients, so clients retention, and most importantly, product innovation to ensure that we provide solutions that are relevant to the various markets that we service. That includes corporate clients, individual clients, families, as well as our friends in the diaspora with families back home in Zambia.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Diving right in, I wanted to ask a little bit about how you came to be so concerned with insurance, healthcare access, of all the different things that you can be focused on. How did you end up taking this on as a career, or being so focused in this particular segment of the economy?
Okay, so I think a few years back, I came to know about medical insurance for the first time when a corporation I was working for put me on one of them as a beneficiary of the scheme. Prior to that, I had no knowledge that such a service existed. And so I was quite concerned from that day forward, seeing the benefits that I was able to access on that corporate scheme. And I wondered how best we can, spread the word so that a lot more people can benefit at various levels at various levels, be it a family, be it an individual, or a corporate. So the first time I got to experience the product, you walk into a hospital, you show your card, you are attended to, and you walk away without having to pay anything. I could see the difference, because prior to that, I was paying out of pocket. And when I get a call that my daughter is unwell, I'm first checking my wallet to see whether I have money or my balance in the bank, because I know the bills would be steep. So once I experienced that difference, my passion then became how best can we educate people? Can we reach out and communicate the benefits of having a medical aid or a medical insurance scheme that is there waiting for those eventualities when someone becomes critically ill, or their day-to-day acute care, or even when they pass away. You find that the medical schemes would pay a supplementary funeral benefit that comes in handy to assist families at their points of need. So I jumped on the first opportunity to try and be part of the change to market medical insurance in the Zambian market. And I think so far we have done good as an institution, One Life, and we still got a lot of work to do, because, as you may know, penetration in Zambia in insurance as a whole in Zambia is staggering below 5%. So we still have a lot of work to do. A lot of people think when you give your money to the insurance company, it's a waste of money, because if you don't get to use it, you don't get it back. They just think it's a scam to some extent. But we have worked with various partners in the market to just try and demystify, the myths that surround insurance access and benefits and all this. And we have also tried to make our terms and conditions very explicit and short, so that our clients can read and understand what they are buying before they buy, so that when they commit, they know what sort of benefits and privileges they're going to experience on the various insurance products that they procure.
Thank you very much. I think Ingwira is joining us from Solwezi. Wanji, Ingwira. Hopefully everything is going on well there. There was something that you mentioned that I'll come to with regards to perception about insurance and all of that, and taking this work. But as you talk about One Life wasn't always called One Life, correct? I think you've gone through a number of evolutions to become one of two companies that actually offer the opportunity for families and retail clients to be able to have access to medical aid in this way. I think, talk a little bit about that transition that you went through and the amount of work that you've put in as people watch and hear about the work that you're doing. As you probably know, my family is also partly Zambian, which means that for the people around us, they have relatives back home. They're constantly thinking about how do they support them. But credibility is a big part of what shapes perception. So help us understand what One Life became, where it came from, and how it's been established in this way.
Okay, so One Life initially came into the market as African Lifestyles, offering a product called Wandanzi Medical Scheme. Up until 2008, our business rebranded to Momentum, and we had that name for quite some time until 2012, when we rebranded to Metropolitan, following a merger between our two shareholders, Momentum and Metropolitan. For some time in the Zambian market, Metropolitan was a household name. Everyone knew that to access medical insurance, you have to speak to Metropolitan. And so we became a household brand in most homes because employer groups trusted us and they were coming to us for the scheme. However, our business was soon to go through another transition when Momentum Metropolitan decided to exit the Zambian market, and a new shareholder, Finsbury Investments, bought our business. So since 2020, our business is in the hands of Finsbury Investments as a shareholder. And in terms of product, we have not changed our core offering. Of course, we have added spices here and there to make it better, more accessible, and for members to enjoy the service. But we have continued to provide 4 key solutions in the Zambian market, namely funeral insurance that basically takes care of funeral expenses when a member is bereaved or they themselves pass away. The other products that we offer is group life assurance and very exciting group life riders that we have put on there, one of which is spousal cover. You know, when a principal member has GLA, usually it pays out only when a principal member dies. But we realize that a financial burden is not only restricted to a principal member. You find that most homes now are double incomed, and when you lose a spouse, you are just as strongly as hit as someone who has lost probably the principal member. So we've added some riders to make the product, more attractive and more importantly, to answer the needs that we see in the market. The other product we offer, of course, targeted at financial institutions, is a credit life policy that ensures that the borrower and the financial institution are both protected, in that should the borrower die, there's financial relief going to the lender, and that automatically distresses the bereaved family from having to look for resources to pay back the deceased's loan. And our popular product, the One Life Health, offering medical insurance and medical managed funds to all our clients. So basically, that's where we're coming from. Over 15 years, strong legacy in the Zambian market. That's basically the long, short history of One Life.
Thank you very much for walking us through that. A lot of the questions that we got prior was, to help folks really understand the quality of the service that you're offering, but also the credibility of the company that is behind it. I wanted to go on and then ask, about the landscape itself that you find yourself in. You touched on the fact that Zambia still presents incredible opportunities from a coverage standpoint, right? Less than 5% of the population has access to any kind of formalized healthcare access to insurance, medical aid, whatever you call it on that end. But then there's also the other side of it, which is the reality that over 64% of the Zambian population itself is still largely in poverty, living on less than $2 a day. Now, how do you reconcile affordability with the service that you want to provide, as well as the safety net or the quality of your pool, your general ledger in providing the service? What does that environment look like, and how have you been able to build trust with the people who are being insured to know that, look, if you do have a claim, we have the facilities, we have the resources to be able to cover that?
Okay. So I think one of the things that most clients look out for when they're making a decision to buy medical insurance is the ability for the insurer to pay. And one key indicator, especially for us in the Zambian market, is the ability of that insurer to have all the entire network of their healthcare providers open and accessible to members. So you find that advocacy, word of mouth goes around the market. If you're frequently being suspended as an insurer, you lose credibility because members would start saying that when they pay their premium, they're not able to access medical services. So as One Life, we have taken a deliberate stance of ensuring that all our partners, our healthcare providers, are paid in time and in full, so that we don't inconvenience our clients. That goes a long way for advocacy in the market, to ensure that whoever is thinking about buying insurance can actually tie in and realize the benefits of having a medical scheme or a medical aid that assists them in times of need. Affordability is a big question, especially for a market like Zambia. You find that it's a price-sensitive market. So we are alive to it as well as One Life, because even when we do our pricing, we frequently go back to the actuaries and say, look, as much as this product is high in terms of risk, we want to get as many people on board as possible. And so with the volumes, the risk is sort of reduced. So the more people that we get on board, the more the pricing becomes more affordable for everybody. So we've tried as much as possible to run twice as much as we would to ensure that majority of the Zambians can afford our medical solution, a medical insurance solution.
For those who are joining us, we're speaking with Mercy Chola from One Life Assurance in Zambia. One Life is a partner to Fleri, a very important partner in that One Life allowed us to be able to get into the Zambian market, but also to be able to cater to families there who have relatives abroad concerned about their healthcare. Now, we're going to go in and talk about the actual network that you have on the ground. For Zambians that live in Seattle, that live in the UK, Zambians that live all around, if they should purchase a One Life plan off of Fleri today, and we'll later show this, what should they expect in terms of access to care for their family members?
Okay.
What are the networks? Do you have nationwide coverage? Dive into a bit of those details and then let's see.
All right. So we have over 250 providers on our network. Our network of providers includes private hospitals, private clinics, government hospitals, and some of the government clinics. Our accreditation process for the providers is quite robust. We try to ensure that whatever they've put to paper they can do, they have the right equipment, and they are licensed by Health Professions Council of Zambia. So we ensure that our clients go to healthcare providers where they would be safe. So safety for our clients is number one at One Life. So in terms of access to labs, we also have a number of labs registered on our network of providers, as well as pharmacies, chemists that members can access medication if prescribed by a doctor. So as long as you have a prescription, you can go to any of our partner pharmacies dotted across the country and get medication on your card without having to pay cash. So the key proposition for us is to ensure that a member does not have to think about how much cash do I have in my pocket before they go to the provider. Because if we ended, for instance, that just having a member access outpatient services and then sort themselves out with the medications, it will still come to the same thing. There would be pressure on their pocket. But what we are trying to do, and what we have done successfully in the past, is that once you pay your premium, you're transferring the risk from yourself to the insurer, One Life, who then takes care of you within the ranges of amounts that are promised to you. So in terms of access, members can access inpatient care. That is where one is admitted in hospital, and they can access outpatient care. This is your day-to-day, your investigations, your dental, your optical needs are also taken care of within the outpatient services. Should you need surgery, whether outpatient, whether it's an outpatient case and the doctor says, no, you have to go in for surgery, we give liberties for a member to tap from their inpatient limit, because we realize that the outpatient limits are low. So there's a lot of flexibility, and we understand that the clients are purchasing these products because they have a need, and we want to address that need in full, of course, within the agreed limits for the products that they have procured.
So this is a very important point that you just made, and I think you kind of slid over that, but that's super important.
Right.
The ability to have members cover their outpatient shortages from their inpatient limits is probably, this is the first time I'm hearing of that from any of the companies that we've worked with, or my experience with folks in the past. I think that's really, really interesting on that end, right? It almost never happens in that way. Why would you decide to do this?
So it's not shortages per se, Sam. I just say that surgeries are expensive. So you have gone to consult outpatient and the doctor says you need a surgery. At that point, it ceases to be outpatient. It becomes inpatient, and you tap benefits from your inpatient limit. I must emphasize that we do not subsidize outpatient shortfalls from inpatient benefits of our clients.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Thanks for the clarity, because you'll probably go home and then we'll have 10,000 requests because that is extremely generous on that end. But
thank you for that.
I know your boss will probably have a couple of words to say. But let's dive into a little bit on the key details here. So for Zambians who are in the diaspora thinking of their family members back home, the unfortunate reality is there really isn't a lot of choice, right? Whether your family member is in Ndola, whether they're in Solwezi, wherever they are, there are only two companies that are providing retail access to medical aid.
Right.
You could flip a coin and then pick which one. But since you're here, I wanted to give you a chance to maybe talk about your approach to medical aid, your approach to member support, your approach to the work that you do that is different from the other company. And we're not going to mention them, but yes.
Okay. So we've simplified our medical insurance solution in the sense that once members are onboarded, they are given an access card. That access card is a biometric card that members use at the first point of access. So the families back home would receive these cards, and at the first point of access, or the first day of accessing medical care, is when they register their fingerprints. What that means is that only the registered person would open and close the transaction at the providers each time they visit. So you register once for a lifetime. Yeah. So we encourage the people procuring the services to ensure that they themselves, the beneficiaries, are the ones who register their fingerprints, because benefits are not transferable. You cannot share benefits, and providers actually verify your membership by ensuring that the card is being read by the fingerprints of the one who's accessing medical care. You might ask a question, how about babies, nephews, little nieces, etc.? So for those ones, we also have a solution. The guardians, the registered guardians, would have to register their fingerprints on behalf of the baby or children below the age of 5, and ensure that each time they go to hospital, only those registered on the child's card can take the child. And so we've even made it a lot better, because 2 sets of fingerprints can be registered for the grandmother and the mother, whichever pair. The ones that are frequently with the child are the ones that we encourage they register a fingerprint, so that in case the child falls ill, access to hospital is assured, and there are no complications. Yeah. So ease of access is our key selling point. You won't have to call us to authorize anything unless it's an inpatient case. So yeah, members can access as long as they have the access card and the biometrics registered, the fingers registered on the card are theirs. Other than that, in terms of our pricing, we are quite competitive. You will not have to pay an arm and a leg or the entire body. Our premiums are very affordable. And because these products are designed here in Zambia for Zambians, you find that there's a lot of room for, there's a lot of, we've taken into account a lot of the needs that a typical Zambian family would have. And so even with our product, we've got the basic products, and it goes on to add on to, we increase, benefits up to, about 4.9 million for those that want a very, that want extensive cover to such limits. But when we are looking at a basic Zambian family, we'll start from, say, as low as 35,000 Zambian kwacha in terms of benefits per annum. And it can, take care of their needs, and their premiums are more affordable compared to the one who's picking our high-end product. And we've got in-betweeners that sort of cover different facets of the people that we are targeting.
Okay. Thanks a lot for that. I was going to ask, before we kind of get into the plans and actually see what the plans look like as you break them down. Now, for emergency cases and for situations where someone loses their biometric card, what do you have in place in terms of processes to help them be able to access that care? Or they traveled out of, Lusaka, went to the Copper Belt, they don't have their card, they need to go to the hospital. How do you handle such situations?
Sorry, I think we had a break a bit. Yeah, and I'm now able to hear you.
Okay, great. So I was asking, and there are two questions here. I think Deepak has a question here as well. Now, for members who lose their card or they travel and leave it, right? Like you leave Lusaka, you go to the Copper Belt, and you need to get to a hospital or a clinic. What are the measures that you have in place to be able to support this in that way? And then the second question that Deepak had was, what about old age dependents? They might need to access service without their children being there in the country. An option could be to link the RMN of the dependents and have OTP used to identify them. So I think he's looking at some of the alternative options, right, to be able to validate rather than always having to carry the biometric card instead of a mobile phone that might be more accessible. So maybe you can take those questions as well.
Okay, so I will encourage our members to always have their cards with them. We're also working with our partner to get rid of the card entirely. But until such a time, we encourage our members to always have their cards with them. The product we are migrating to will not require you to have a card, but just register your biometrics. So access will just be fingers and no card required. At the moment, if a member has forgotten their card, we have another process of verifying their membership before we can approve that they are seen at the providers. And it works. It works okay because the provider then calls us to say, oh, there's this member. We verify them in the system and we give them a go ahead to do an off the system transaction that we then book in the back office. So it's possible that, eventualities do happen. You leave okay, it's a party, and you fall ill, and your card is in Saka and you're in Ndola. So it doesn't mean that a member will not have access. They will have access. And I think the other thing I want to address also is the dynamic of the population that we're covering. You have parents have gone away, and the children are here in Zambia. The grandparents can be principal members of the scheme, and the Okay, can you hear me? Right. Okay, so categories of dependence is not strictly to biological children. It can be nieces, nephews that a member is adding. And we also find ourselves sometimes in a unique situation where we are only presented with minors. They're the ones that need medical cover. So in such instances, the guardian, the one who's going to be paying premium, would need to write to us, giving authority that their children who are minors can sit on the scheme on their own without a principal per se who's above the age of 18.
Thanks a lot for that. I'm going to dive into the plans themselves on that end. I think Deepak had a question right there. He said, if there is an emergency of the beneficiary, is there a designated next of kin whose biometrics can be used to verify as a second option, since the beneficiary may not be in the position to do that him or herself?
So if the beneficiary is a minor, we allow for biometrics to be taken for the next of kin or the guardian of the child. So by minor, I mean children below the age of 5. But for those above the age of 5, they're in an emergency. They will be taken care of. The hospital will find a way of verifying their membership and proceed to take care of them. And once the patient is able to, use the biometric machine, they can then do that. Or the alternative is that we can then do an off-the-system transaction. The bill is sent to us and we book it from the back office.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm going to share my screen and we'll walk through the current product portfolio that you have with Fleri. Let me know when you can see it. Yes, we should be good.
Right.
So for those who are watching, if you have family in Zambia, you get on Fleri. It's a pretty simple stepwise process. First, select the country that you're looking for. It will show you the different plans that are available, different products in there. In this case, we're focused on One Life's products. And so starting maybe from the different types of services or the different types of plans that you actually provide, could you talk about what the essential is, what is the extender, what is the essential star, and then we could get into the details of what differentiates each of them.
Okay, so the first thing I'll say is that we have 8 different options, but in terms of coverage, every member gets access to inpatient, outpatient, optical, dental, and dental care.
Those
On
are
our
the base benefits.
option, yes. On our essential option, a member has coverage up to 35,700 Zambian kwacha, and of that amount, 27,700 is dedicated to their inpatient services, whilst 8,000 kwacha is their outpatient services. Dental and optical is pegged at 1,800 for optical and dental. So this is our most basic product, and it's the most affordable product of all of them. I'll now quickly go to our extender option. For our extender option, our overall limit is 192,360 Zambian kwacha. Within that, you can access inpatient care, your diagnostics, that's pathology, radiology, medications, inpatient, all come from that amount. And we have outpatient care sitting at 23,100, and optical and dental care sitting at 3,400 each. So you find that the benefit coverage in terms of money, in terms of the benefit allocated to the member increase as you go to the next option, but the coverage remains the same. Members are able to access all the things that you're able to access on our most basic plan. You're able to access even on our highest plan. The only limitation there is how much you can spend on the different plans, on the different tiers that are available on the platform.
Okay, and you also mentioned that you have coverage for infants all the way up to older ages. Is there a limit on the age of the member? What is the upper limit, if there is, on that end? And does this change based on the plan you're getting?
Okay, so the upper limit for entry is capped at 70. Mm-hmm. So any members below the age of 70 can opt in on any of the plans that are listed. Of course, we do some underwriting for first-time joiners. So when you're joining the scheme for the very first time, we'll do some basic underwriting. For some of the underwriting we do is basically you answering some questions about your previous medical history. And for some people, we require that they actually give us, a document signed by their doctor that gives a testament about what their medical history is like.
Mm-hmm. And I think based on the collaboration that we have, our current care representatives in the country essentially take care of getting all of that information and getting that to you to simplify the process for people who are enrolling their families here on that end. Now, what does the family plan actually look like, whether on the Essential, the Star, or the Extender?
Okay, so a family unit, so by family, I'm using it loosely to mean a group of people that has come onto our scheme. So it would not necessarily be a nuclear family. So once they come on board, each one of them gets their own stream of benefits. So if we are giving essential option with 35,700 Zambian kwacha as benefits, each person on cover gets their own, stream of benefits to tap from. So if there is a granddad, a grandma, a niece, and a nephew on that policy, each one of them would have those, benefits attached to them. What typically they would access, for instance, outpatient, the scheme is able to pay for their consultations. It's able to pay for medications. It's able to pay for pathology, which is investigations to find out what is wrong with somebody, what they, like investigations to identify exactly what the person is suffering from. And it also pays for optical and dental care. So it's holistic cover that ensures that your health needs are taken care of by the insurer.
Okay. Okay. Can you talk about any restrictions, waiting periods, exclusions that are associated with the plans that you have?
Okay, so I like to summarize our exclusions in one sentence. Anything
Mhm.
not intended to cure an underlying disease is an exclusion. So, for instance, teeth whitening, wearing of crowns, changing your skin color, surgery to change sex, etc. All those things are exclusions because they're not treating any underlying diseases.
Okay.
In terms of our waiting periods, we have a 3 month general waiting period for a first time buyer of our product. Um, During that 3 months, they will not access any medical services. In month 4, they start to access the full panel of services. So this is for a first time buyer of insurance. But if the person is coming from another scheme, another medical insurance, for instance, you had been working for company X and you retire and you want to jump onto the one life cover as an individual, you provide proof of cover and your benefits start in month 1. And then 2, we have waiting periods for pre-existing conditions. So pre-existing conditions range from, you know, diabetes, hypertension, chronic diseases, etc. Our waiting periods for those condition-specific waiting periods start from 3 months to a maximum of 2 years. So what that means is that, for instance, you're a first-time buyer of insurance, you serve your 3 months general waiting period in month 4, you can then access our full panel of services except for the particular condition that has been underwritten. So for instance, you are hypertensive, you get 6 months condition-specific waiting period. You will not get any BP drugs within that 6 months that you have been underwritten. But in month 7, you are then able to get your BP drugs and everything. And until you decide to terminate your policy, you have a full panel of benefits. So that's basically in brief what our waiting periods look like and special conditions.
I appreciate that. So I was going to ask on that end, you know, how do you look at preventative care as a part of it? How do you look at preventative care um, from the perspective of medical aid, right? If the goal is to treat underlying conditions, and part of the situation that we find in these emerging countries and in Zambia in particular is most people who've never had an opportunity to get on a formalized plan like what you provide, they're not even aware of what their conditions are. Part of the reason why their family member in the UK, in the US, is getting them a plan is because they want them to be able to be healthy, know what their status is, know what is going on. How do you handle that? How do you ensure that people are not just waiting until there's an emergency, which ends up costing more to the insurance company? How is that factored into your service?
Okay, like I said, the best time to buy insurance was yesterday. Before you actually have the need for it, you buy it. So, I mean, there's no way of knowing you have a pre-existing condition before it is diagnosed. So we also are alive to that fact. Members can come onto the scheme and then realize they have a chronic. So those ones will be covered. And then yeah, so it's the information that a member gives us is what determines what we underwrite and what we don't. Yeah.
So say my mom wanted to go to a hospital or wanted to see a doctor, right? So, her son who's been working hard decides mama needs to get some medical aid.
Right.
She says, okay, I've been getting these headaches. I'm not aware of what they are, but I want to get a general check, right? So she goes to a hospital, goes to see the doctor. How do we cover this under your plan? A general wellness check or a way to be able to get ahead of something. So she's not been rushed to a hospital. She's not necessarily sick, but she wants to be able to get ahead of how she's feeling.
Okay, so general medical examinations are not covered, but in the example you have given, it qualifies because there's an underlying problem there, constant headaches. So the doctors would then need to investigate what is causing the headaches. So that is the medical motivation for her to be seen, so they can identify whether it's hypertension or it's a migraine and etc. So where you just say, oh, I want to be examined to find out if there's something wrong with me, that medical examination, the general medical examination, will not be covered on the scheme. But if you have a complaint and the doctor orders a couple of tests to determine what is wrong with you, those would be paid for under the scheme within the client's limits.
Okay. Got it. I think it will be one of the things that we'll definitely be talking about to see, how do we reduce, the incident of emergencies or escalated claims by kind of getting ahead of things and offering, general wellness checks as part of it, which help us anticipate or discover very early on any underlying issues that would also help with your future underwriting on that end.
Right.
There are a few more questions as we get towards the close. If someone is thinking today of getting a plan for a loved one, right? As much as we have skepticism, as much as there are issues there, why should they really consider that now? What are you seeing? Why should they be doing that right now? Right? So you have an audience that's listening to you. Why should the person who's living abroad not send money through Western Union and then maybe kind of forget that? But why does it make sense for them to be picking up a plan on here, trying to get this ahead of time?
Okay, so you bear me witness. What we do with the money when we get it, we make a budget for groceries, we make a budget for this and that. Healthcare is at the bottom end of that list, if at all it makes it to that list. So you find that when you send money to your mom, she would want to upgrade her wardrobe, she wants to upgrade her kitchen, she wants to buy nice food, etc. The likelihood of falling sick does not even cross her mind until the day that she actually falls ill. And it's common with everybody else. Therefore, having a plan that sits waiting for that eventuality for members, for your loved ones to be taken care of is very key, because on the particular day when they fall ill, they know what to do, that they'll just have to pull out their medical insurance card and they're attended to. And it will not be a drain, it will not be an emergency for you to now see, how do I send money, how do I do that? And because our network of providers is across the country, and these are credible facilities that see the registered beneficiaries, they can walk in any day at any of the providers and they're attended to in a professional manner. So it helps with your budgeting. It helps with also just ensuring that the financial strain does not, prevent a member from accessing quality health care. Because what I see is that when a member does not have the medical aid, their first line of defense is to walk into, a drugstore and order off-the-counter medication, which sometimes worsens the situation, because you think it's a code. You buy your code drill or whatever else is offered for codes. You go back, take 1 week, you're not getting better, you go back to the pharmacy to say, I think now it's malaria. You get drugs for malaria. Only when you're now almost failing to walk do you say, I think let me go and see the doctors, because you're trying to run away from the bill of paying your consultations, doing normal investigations, and then get proper medications. And you find that in that period, the disease is escalating. By the time you're getting there, you probably need an admission. And if you didn't prepare, you sent money last month, it has been spent, there is an emergency again. You'd have to keep replenishing because you don't know how much at the end of the day the bill will be. With this product, it gives you that comfort to say that only after the limits are exhausted do you need to come in. And very often we don't get members exceeding their limits or getting to the CEO of their limits, because the limits that we have put across, they are quite, they are quite enough. And when we do member education, we encourage clients, for instance, on our lower plans, to access low-cost per-visit providers that enables them to leverage their cover across the year. So it just helps with the budgeting. It helps with creating the mind to go to hospital first before you self-diagnose, which ultimately saves a lot of lives.
Absolutely. Really, really appreciate you making that message clear. I think a lot of us fail to recognize that it's not just the lack of access, but sometimes it's also all of the wrong choices that are made as a result of the lack of funds or the lack of affordability for the actual care, right, in the Western situations. And it's no wonder that we end up with such adverse outcomes all the time. But I want to say thank you very much, Mercy, for joining us today. Thank you for taking time to break down the products that you have on Fleri. For those of you who are watching, again, Fleri is a cross-border healthcare marketplace, helping you in the diaspora to be able to identify, understand, and then pay for the healthcare that you need for your loved ones back home. You can find out what plans are available for the country where your loved ones live by going to www.joinfleri.com, and you'll be able to search the countries and the different plans. We have some new announcements coming up in the next few weeks for how, if you're even not thinking of getting a plan for a loved one today, how you can actually get them on the pathway towards getting that healthcare support that they need back home with us. So really excited to have had you here. I appreciate the effort, appreciate the work that we'll continue to do in this regard. Any last words before we go?
All right. Thank you so much for having One Life to unpack the product that we have for our friends in the diaspora. If you have been having second thoughts, I think now is the time to make that decision to put your loved ones on a medical scheme that ensures holistic care is provided to them without you having to worry about what extra money would I have to send in case of an emergency. You have this plan and, of course, various options that are on the Fleri platform that you can use to ensure that all your loved ones are taken care of.
All right. Mercy, thank you once again. Thank you to your entire organization for the work that they continue to do. Looking forward to seeing you in person soon on that end as well. For those who don't know, Lusaka is the spot. They should definitely plan a trip there. But this has been the 4th episode of Fleri Care Digest. We've had the amazing opportunity to speak to Mercy Chola and the team at One Life. They continue to provide access to healthcare, and there are only 1 or 2 companies that actually do this in the whole of Zambia. So really amazing work that you're doing, thank you for making us a part of that. I will see you all next 2 weeks for our next episode. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, and goodbye.
All right.